It was a dire way to get started.
It's just a kind of top soft dog.
He's the first person that ever came to History Society that started before it started.
And I'll tell you what, you might hope you're here for the long haul, because it'll take me about 2 hours to do this.
We're no hurry.
Anyway, we'll formally start and get going. So welcome back to our second meeting of the 45th season, or whatever it might be. And but before I introduce Boyd here, I will give a plug for a new book. A new book which is very relevant to the topic tonight, because it's all about births, deaths and marriages of the Ballinascreen Church of Ireland, St Columbus and St Anne's. Now, it's done by Al Botkin, who also done the Black Hell book and the Workhouse book for us. So I'm plugging it here this evening. They're for sale over there. The early ones can get signed copies. There's a few signed copies there. They signed them on Saturday, wasn't it, Graham?
Yes.
At the launch. So that is Ballinascreen Church of Ireland. It contains the names, it's 160 pages, contains the names of thousands of people, and goes back to 1825 for the Church of Ireland. So, and then for those who are not from the Church of Ireland, buy a book anyway. Add it to your collection. The collection, this is the 50th book of Ballinascreen Historical Society, and if you have got them all at this stage, they're worth £1 or £2. So they are collector's items. Some are a lot of them are out of print. So anyway, that's the plug. Our speaker tonight is Boyd Gray from the West Ulster Genealogical Services even. As a professional genealogist who's worked for over 25 years researching family history in Ireland, with a particular specialism in North West Ulster. Boyd has recently been asked to be one of the experts giving advice at an Ulster breakout room as part of a Zoom conference being organised by the British Isles Family History Society of Greater Ottawa, no less, Wayne, Canada. So, researchers, as we all know, who have been at family history for a while, like John Hearn and myself, who have been at it for about 30 years at least, know that has got a wee bit easier. You don't have to trip up and down to Prony all the time anymore. So with all the databases, all the stuff on the internet, there's plenty of stuff, and Boyd is going to take us through all that, and hopefully we'll leave tonight with a wider appreciation of genealogy and know some of his websites and other aspects that we can research for ourselves. So Boyd, you can now start.
Lovely, thank you. First of all, I should say that although I'm good at projecting my voice, because of the use to it, doing assemblies for 200 or 300 kids, you don't get a microphone, you have to do it. But at the same time, I've developed guitar recently, and it affects, I have to keep clearing my throat all the time because it affects how I project the voice. It's probably as a result of 30, 40 years of projecting my voice has actually done it. Anyway, that's by the by. Thank you very much for inviting me to do this talk. My wife said to me whenever I was leaving, good luck, I'm sure you'll be grand. And I said, oh, it's going to be fantastic. She said, don't be worrying about it. I said to her, well, you know me, I actually love getting up here and performing in front of people. I've been used to doing it for so long that I actually enjoy doing it. I can remember when I did my first talk at genealogy group, it was to the Women's Institute in East Donegal. And there was only about half a dozen in front of me, and they got up to speak, and I went, not at all. But I got over that nervousness now, so I'm fine. Anyway, I wanted to say to you something about researching your family history and how, as was mentioned a minute ago, it's got so much more accessible. About, I would say, 90% of all you are ever going to find about your family history is now online. You can do it from your living room. You don't have to go to archives, you don't have to go to libraries, you don't have to go to Prony. Thank goodness, because you think they own their records themselves. Sometimes it's only to hear from Prony, but I don't really like going up there. They have all the church records up there in Crony as well, on microphone, so sometimes hard to get church records, so you're really lucky to have that book there. If you go to a clergyman and ask for church records, you're likely to get a very dusty reply. The men have got far better things to be doing than sitting for an hour with you in front of their church records. Not only that, but an hour's not enough anyway. You need 5 or 6 hours in front of those records if you're going to get everything that needs to be got from them. So you can go up to Crony and do it. The only problem is, you've got the microphone down there and you're spinning away through it, and you come to the people you're looking for. Come here, I've got them, and you want to take a wee picture of them. So you get your camera out. Somebody's tapping jokes, right? You're not allowed to take photographs. But you're not allowed to take photographs. And this is before I even had, this tells you how long I've been doing it. This was when I had a proper camera with me before we had cameras and phones, 20 years ago, and it hasn't changed. They don't want to take the photographs. You have to take the microphone off, and you have to go up to a special reader thing, and you have to put it on there. You have to rewind it first, then you put it on there, and then you try and find it again. It takes you about half an hour to find it again. Then you press a button and you get one picture. Back to start again. Thank goodness most of it's on the internet anyway. I could gabble for ages, so I better get started. The first thing I want to show you is a wee video, because I want to give you some idea of why I find family history so fascinating. I retired from teaching to actually start doing family history, having researched my own, and then put a lot of it on the internet. And then people asked me, there's a man from New Zealand, that's his bag there, which he actually sent me. Paul Gallagher was his name. He's a solicitor in New Zealand. He said, boy, I've seen what you've been putting online. He said, I want my family history done, my people were from County Donegal, but I am money rich and time poor. I can't spare the time to do it, but you do it for me and I'll pay you. So that's where it all started, really. But I don't charge the fees that a professional, very kindly called a professional genealogist. I have no qualifications, I have nothing but experience, 20 years experience of doing it. So I want to show you why it's so fascinating. It's partly the chase, the detective story of trying to find the information. It's partly constructing stuff on the, I love being on the computer, to be honest. It's partly using the computer, but the biggest, or one of the biggest aspects of it is getting out into the Irish countryside. I'm not from Donegal, my wife's from Donegal, we moved back there whenever we came back from England. I was there for 25 years. So I didn't really know Donegal, but now I know more of the townlands in East Donegal than any of her brothers or sisters know, because I've done so much of it there. You get to know the Irish countryside, and you get to know the Irish people, and they are invariably always welcoming, no matter who they are. You can roll up on their front street. What's that? Not Southern Ireland Guardian on our front street. What do they want? So you get out and you explain why you're there. You know, family used to live here 150 years ago, and we're just wondering, could we have a look and take pictures if there's any pictures, or do you know anything about them? Well, they couldn't be more welcoming. They have you in, you got tea and buns and all sorts of stuff. They're just incredibly welcoming. And this first wee video, if it works, sometimes videos don't always work around here. If it works, this first wee video illustrates that. Well, work for me, please. No. So there's the McAllan House from plot 9, and you know where the Bowley is?
There's one outside Drapersrown.
Called the Bowley?
Yeah.
God, I wouldn't have thought there was two of them because it's such an unusual name. Then you know where there's another one?
Well, John Bowley was rare there.
Well, that's why it's called the Bowley. I was brought up in Ballinascreen, right? You all know where that is. And whenever I was growing up, and going to school and everything else, people used to talk about so and so from up the Bowley. And I had no idea where it was, but about last year, I was asked to research the Manhattans. There was a woman from Australia researched the Manhattans, what Manhattans of the Bowley. So I discovered where it was, and it's just about 3 miles on the Derry side of Ballinascreen, south of the road.
What does that word mean?
I don't know what it means. Anybody?
Billy and taking the chapel up.
Probably is. Probably is. But they always call it, in Ballinascreen, they always call it not Bowley, but the Bowley. Don't know why. Anyway, where do you see this? Is it called the Bolly or just Bolly?
The bully.
You see, he said the Bolly and you said Bolly. Which is it? Bolly. I know I was in Ballinascreen and we always called it the Bolly. We said, so-and-so lived up the Bolly. Oh, the Bolly. That's right, up there. Anyway, so we're doing this for Gail's brother Peter, who is still in Australia as we speak. And Gail is standing here, and to her left is Robert. To her right is David. And on the end is and these three of us gentlemen live in this house just behind us here. They live together without a crossword ever been spoken.
Yes.
And you know why that is? Because they have no woman to bother them. They're all bachelor gentlemen and no woman to cause any trouble between us.
Can you each say hello to my brother Peter so he can hear your lovely accent?
Yes.
Yeah.
What should I say?
Hello, Peter. I'm whatever you.
You call Peter.
Peter.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
There you go.
This is David.
This is David.
Great Peter.
I don't know how you say your surname because we say it
Great
differently.
Peter.
How do you say your surname?
David.
David. Surname? That's it.
David Michael Hatton.
David Mickleham.
And I'm Robert Michael Hatton.
And you are
William.
William Mickleham. So this is the Mickleham brothers, and there's one more of us as well who lives in Drumahoe. Two unfortunately passed away, and they're in the graveyard out there at Cocknevale Presbyterian Church. But there is one more called Matthew, and Matthew is married, and he has 3 girls, is that right? Do you know their names? No. We'll not show Matthew this bit. If there'd been a woman there, she would have gone on. Anyway, 3 girls. But we've got Matthew's telephone number, so we'll maybe give him a wee ring and make contact with him too. Right, you go. It is a decent way of doing it. So they still live in the Mickleham farm here, and it is a beautiful farm on a beautiful sunny day. And over there is the old farmhouse where the Micklehams would have lived. Right. Now, do you see what I mean? Like, whenever you meet these people, they're just so welcoming. Now, I've been with one of those men, William, at the end a week beforehand, so he knew I was bringing this woman along.
He's all dressed up.
But he obviously didn't tell the other 2. And again, I say there needed to be a woman there because we stood for an hour and a half, myself and Gail, chatting to them at the back door. Right? If there'd been a woman there, you would have been in having a cup of tea. But 3 80-year-old bachelors, that never occurred to them. But they couldn't have been more welcome, they couldn't have been more nice people. And so that's one of the fascinations about researching family history, is that you get out into the countryside and you meet people. But the other thing, the fourth thing about researching it is that, especially for Americans, you wouldn't believe how emotional they get whenever you take them to the place where their great-great-grandfather was born. I sometimes deliberately switch it on just to see what reaction I'll get when we're standing in front of this old ruined wallstead. And I will say to them, can you imagine your great-great-grandfather, James, was born in there? If you just listen a wee minute, you might be able to hear the sound of the baby crying when it was No, seriously, they do love it. They appreciate it very much. They couldn't be nicer. And I hope whenever they've had their election tonight, they manage to get on with each other and stop falling out. Because no matter which side I meet coming from America, they're all lovely people. As I said, sometimes you're in front of old ruined wallsteads. And sometimes, mainly, it's a modern bungalow or a modern farmhouse or something like that. So you don't really get an idea of where they would have lived. But in this particular case, these Mickleham ones, as I panned around there, you could see that they were outside the bungalow where they live now. But that was the old Mickleham house there. And they took me into it. They took us into it. And it was being used as a byre, or chickens. That's used for chickens. It smelled terribly of chicken manure. But there were still some traces of fireplaces and old sofas and what thing in there. So you could take yourself back 50, 60, 70 years and say, this is how your people would have lived not that long ago. That's where they did live up to maybe 200 years ago. So it's just a fascinating topic, I find, anyway. This particular project that I'm going to be talking about to you today, I was asked to do it by a lady called Teresa Kane. And this is a copy of the first email that she sent me, and I'll read it to you. Some of you may know some of the people that I'm going to show you tonight. You should know some of them because they are from around here. She said, "Hello, I have seen your very helpful post on Facebook. Are you able to help me find ancestors too? I'm particularly trying to find how I'm related to Teresa Moran," and her name was Teresa Kelly. Just go it. Well, maybe not coincidence. Whose maiden name was Teresa Kelly. Like her deceased, I have visited her son Larry or Lawrence Moran, while in Ireland last year. He's a very fine Irishman. And so he was. He was a lovely man. Eh? Aye. He is Laurie the musician man who holds Kellys in his barn. Have you been to them?
Yeah.
Isn't he a gentleman? He is a really nice man. Yeah, well, he was to invite me down to one of his Kellys, but I haven't got round to it yet. Well, that's good, you know, that you've got the local connection. I'll talk more about him later on. I would like to see the connection to him. Teresa Kelly Moore's husband's name was Joseph Kelly, I believe, and I believe Larry's great-grandfather was my grand-uncle. I would be appreciative of information on ancestry connections to Larry Moore. So she'd been over here before, she'd met Larry. Larry said we're somehow related, we come from roughly the same area, and I know these people, do you know them people, how do they fit together? And that's what she wanted me to do, was to fit them together. Now, I need to do a wee bit of theory before I go any further forward so that you understand what I'm doing, and I'm trying to do it as quick as possible. For those people who've done your family tree, you'll know all about this, and hopefully it'll confirm what you've been doing yourself. If I tell you this is what I would be doing as well. I teach this too, by the way, to groups of 8 or 10 or 12 people over a period of 8 weeks, and I help them do their family history and show them how to do it as well. But basically, there's not all that many sources really that you're using for family history, for researching your family history. What you've really got is 1, 2, 3, 4 platforms, if you like, that are land surveys of where people were at a particular time. And they are going backwards. There's the 1911 census, there's the 1901 census. No more censuses. We haven't got them, lost them, destroyed in the forecourts in Dublin in 1922. I think it was 21, 22. Do you know what happened to them? They were burned, that's right. There was a civil war in Ireland, and I think it was the IRA were holed up in the forecourts, and the Free Stater army was firing on them using some, apparently Winston Churchill's cannons, would you believe, you lent them to them, and one of them hit the magazine or something in the forecourts and blew up all of our censuses, so we lost them. That should and could have made it extremely difficult to research a family history in Ireland, but luckily we have something that no other country has, that I know of anyway, as a census substitute, and it's called the Griffiths Valuation. It's a land survey that was conducted. It was started in the 1820s. And it took them 30 years to do it, and what they did was they started up in Ballinascreen, actually. What do you call the beach? Bagilligan Beach. You know Bagilligan Beach? They needed a long 7-foot length flat area, so they started in Bagilligan Beach to measure it and to get the sea level there, and they had a station at either end of it, and one end was in Ballykelly and the other end 7 miles away was up on the Gilligan Point. And then they started measuring away from that and going all the way around Ireland. They measured every hill and every valley and everything, every house and every building, and the only people fit to do that, with a big enough organisation and with the skills to do it, was the Ordnance Corps, was the army. So the maps they produced were called Ordnance Survey maps. That was the beginning of Ordnance Survey maps in Ireland, the 1820s. They finished it in the 1850s, and then published it all, and it's a record of every head of household, and it is about 95% of the heads of household are in the Griffiths valuation. So we need that in order to be able to push back to about 1800. But while we've lost all of those censuses, what no census ever has is a map. They tell you where those people were living. But the Griffiths valuation comes with maps. It tells you exactly where every head of household was. And it's online. And it's free. Not only are those maps online from the 1850s, because that's when they were published, they've got modern maps superimposed on the top. Push a slider left or right and you can see exactly where you are nowadays. And sitting on top of that, they've got aerial photographs. So you can actually look down and see what's there now. Brilliant resource. No other country has something like that. So before you complain about losing all our censuses, we do have the advantage of having the Griffiths valuation. Earlier land survey called the Times Allotment Books, and those are the 4 platforms, and they need to be linked up. You need to be able to follow people through one to the other. And you do that mainly using civil records of births, marriages and deaths. Civil records. Well, they didn't begin until 1864. Except for 1845 for Protestant marriages for some reason or other. But really they didn't begin to 1864. So you would like to be able to use church baptisms and marriages and burials. Except that we've lost most. They've disappeared. You were mentioning having those Church of Ireland ones. That's the other thing too. Catholic records very rarely go back much further than 1850. Except my own parish of Murdoch, Clonlee, and Lifford, where they go back to 1790. 2 generations earlier. So you can be very lucky. Not only that, but someone's not to bother of actually cataloguing them all if you ever have to research in that particular church. But normally the records don't go past about 1850. Presbyterian records about 1830, Church of Ireland maybe 1830 or 1800. But only the Catholic ones are online. And up until this year they weren't indexed. So you have to scroll through all this spidery writing to try and find the people that you wanted. But Find My Past has now indexed them. So if you have a subscription to Find My Past, you can go there and you can actually search there first of all, and it will tell you where to go to find the records that you want, if they're there at all. The other thing that connects them up is that that Griffiths valuation was finished in the 1850s, but it was done for a purpose. You know, it wasn't done just for the good of the people of Ireland. It was to collect taxes, what we call rates, still called rates, I think. And therefore they needed to know who to charge, and that's why they were taking the names of every head of household. You're going to get that, you're going to have to pay for it. And it was no good having it as one off for 1858 or something like that. It had to be updated every 10, 70 times. Emigrated, sold the land, passed it on to the child, whatever, had to be updated. So all those books of datings are also available online from 1859 to 1929. Takes you right through the middle of the censuses, so you can identify people back to long time. Right. I need to go quicker because this is going to take too long. And those are the whole kind of sources. Really, you're using the same websites over and over and over again. I do this all the time at nights and during the afternoons. I research people's family history and I'm using these same websites over and over again. The Griffiths valuation is at Ask About Ireland. You don't need to write this down, remember it's at the top of my Facebook page. The 2 censuses are at the National Archives online. Again, free, both of those are free. Births, marriages and deaths, the other big thing you need. And they are available free at one website called Irish Genealogy, put there by Enda Kenny and the Irish government over the last 10 years. Totally free. The only problem is it's not easy to find them on there. It's not easy to search. You haven't got a good search engine, as they say, to find people. You can only search for them by Christian name, surname, and the place that the event was registered, which is not necessarily the place that they're born or living or anything else. And year, of course. Whereas Roots Ireland, although it will cost you £120 a year, something thereabouts, has a fantastic search engine, and you can search all births, marriages and deaths in Roots Ireland. It doesn't have actual it only has transcripts, it doesn't have the actual documents, but once you find it in Roots Ireland, you can go to Irish Genealogy and get it there. That's a site from the Republic of Ireland. Northern Ireland has a similar one called Brony, but it's a bit like Brony. It's dodgy, it's difficult to use, and it's incredibly expensive. I'll say no more about it. People often talk about I've reached a brick wall, which is a saying that I don't like. It annoys me because can you help me with my brick wall? And it's as if they're asking you, there's a big brick wall in front of me, you know, if you could just pull one of the bricks out, I'm sure the whole wall would come toppling down and we'd be able to move into the sunny uplifts of my ancestry going back to the year 1600 or whatever. It's not like that. We've already said you can't get back much more than 1800. Why? There are no records. They didn't keep them. They didn't have church records. They've lost them all. Or they never took them. Or civil records only began in 1864. Or land records didn't do them. There just isn't any records. Barring a magic wand that you can wave around, you're not going to find these things. 1800 is your limit. Or if you find somebody age 75 dying in 1864, you're back into the 1780s. You know that person was born in 1780s. So, you know, you can't say I get back to the 1780s, but not because there's records in 1780s. You're using something from much later. So rather than a brick wall, I would say it's much more like Roadrunner here. What happened to him when he ran off the edge of the cliff? Looked back, suddenly there's nothing there. That's the same with records, they're just not there. So don't talk about brick walls, Roadrunner. Right, whenever people from Ireland given me a project to do, I always say to them, and I'm going to say this to you now, what I really need is your grandparents. What were their names? What ages roughly were they? And where would they have been in the 1911 census? Because I want to find them in the 1911 census. So you need to know the townland. I'm not embarrassing now about it because I haven't at the time, but see, whenever I ask an audience of this, again, the women know better than the men, but if you ask them and ask the men, can you name your two grandmothers' maiden names? Isn't it sad? I say this to me, right? I say, you see, Robin comes and visits us. That's the name of one of our granddaughters. Robin won't know your maiden name whenever she grows up. And that's true, she probably won't. That's the way of it. So, for Irish people, it's the 1911 census. You get your hook out of the 1911 census, and once you get there, everything is possible. Everything opens up. I can do it. Within 2 hours, I will have you back to 1800, because I know where to look, and I know what to look for. But for Americans, because they've emigrated usually, you have to find them in the Griffiths valuations. You have to say to them, I can only do this project for you if you can give me some idea of who left Ireland, when they left Ireland, and where were they living before they left. At least give me the parish and an unusual name and I might find them. But really, what we need is the townland to be able to find them. There's no point in telling me you want to find Doherty's in Show. You know, everybody in a show called Doherty. So, in fact, you'll see it here as well. There's so many Dohertys in the show and they all have to. You're Doherty from the minute show now.
Kellys as well. She was about Foxy Brackaghlislea.
Exactly what I was just about to say. You'll see it later on. This woman's Kellys were called the Hootie Kellys. Hootie Kellys. You know why, don't you? Why did it? Because yeah, because one of their ancestors was called Hugh. He was Hugh Kelly. So this was Hugh's ancestors. They're the Hootie Kellys. And, you know, it was the same with my Gordons from. Do you know where Lisleigh is? They killed them in the parish of Kilray. They were from Lisleigh, and everybody in the parish, in the townland of Lisleigh, was called Gordon. So they all differentiated themselves. And whenever I was starting to do my family history research, and I was talking to, that happened to my oldest cousin, was 20 years older than me, and she was a bit of a family historian, so she remembered everything, knew everything. Lives in Maharan now, not far away from here. I would say to her, right, and what about this man, James Gordon, from this particular area, and say, oh, that's not our Gordons. No. They were the Great Quarter Gordons. We were the main Gordons.
Ye Gordon.
I don't think too many of them were gay, other than number two. You have to differentiate whenever there's so many people of the same name in one town. So, this is what she said. Eh?
Just when you're on that, people, and going back already in the names, Paddy Huey, Jimmy, and then Mary. So Paddy Huey, Jimmy, Mary. And I worked out that Mary's husband died when the children were young, all after her. Because I checked up to see if there were other people, some were happened to. So I worked out that that's how the woman's name comes into it. It's always called after the father, but if the father died when the children were young, there's no point in calling them after him because he wasn't about.
No, that's right. And that's how they became identified.
That's
that? Well, I said to you that we were the main Gordons and there was the Great Quarter Gordons. There was also the Enos John Gordons. Enos John. Right? Why were they called Enos John Gordons? Because they were descendants of Georgina's son John. Enos Johns. Oh, you haven't read this yet. So, the unfortunate thing was that Terry had no idea which town her Kellys came from. So that was a bad start. But she was able to say to me that my great-grandparents lived in County Derry, Ireland, and John Kelly and Sarah Scullion Kelly were their names. So John Kelly married Sarah Scullion, straight into Roots Ireland, marriage of John Kelly and Sarah Scullion. That's what you're looking for. Hang on, why have I not put that in there? I know. I needed to know more about it, so she also knew that this Sarah Scullion woman died in 1936 in America. They'd emigrated to America and she died in 1936 in Philadelphia. And again, from experience, I knew that Philadelphia is a standout part of the United States because they kept fantastic death records that give all sorts of information that you wouldn't normally find in any of our death records, or an English death record, or any other American death record, but you will find in Australian death records because they do the same all over Australia. So I was able to go straight there and find the death of her great-grandmother, whatever it was, I can't remember now. And her name was Sarah Kelly then because her husband was John Kelly. But there's her parents, Alexander Scullion and Sarah McGovern. Note that name McGovern because we come back to that. Okay? And there we have the marriage of Sarah Scullion and Alexander McGovern there. And you can see that this is a marriage record, and a birth record rather, and I'm able to find them on there. Incidentally, there was a mistake in this. Did I write it on there? No. So, using births, marriages, and deaths, we're linking upward, beginning to make a start on the family history here. She was also had a photograph of her. Well, it says it there. Read it. Terry, my great grandfather is on the right, Francis Kelly. And there, a Hughie Kelly, his mother is bottom right, sisters and brother too, except the fact that that was wrong, she was wrong. People frequently get this information wrong. They mix up generations, they get uncles and brothers mixed up. So that kept me looking for ages and took me on a wild goose trail because it was actually wrong information. But eventually, I was able to find, again, Sarah Scullion died in 1936 and she was a widow. Well, there's her husband, John Kelly, John J. Kelly, died in 1935. And there's his father's name, John Kelly, and Catherine McCurley. So her great-great-grandfather was not called Francis, he was called John, and that document proves it. I was able to tell her that, and we've sorted it all out later on. But also, we've got the other family as well, Catherine McCurley. So this woman here, she knew was Catherine Catherine Kelly, but it was actually Catherine McCurdy was her maiden name. Isn't it lovely to have a photograph? You know, the body of Judy then. Don't know. So I was able to find the birth of, I showed it to you there, of Sarah Scullion, and therefore her parents. It was 1888, wasn't it, I think? Well, the husband, John Kelly, should have been born around the same time, maybe 1878, but that's after 1864, so his birth should have been there in births, marriages and deaths, but it wasn't. I'll tell you why. By law, everybody should be in the civil records. You have got, is it 6 weeks to get in and register a birth or marriage or death? That's when you're supposed to do it. But unfortunately, a lot of people didn't bother doing it. You know, you think about it, these people are living out in the countryside, 5 or 6 miles out from the place where they have to register, the town or village where they have to register the birth, marriage and death. They just didn't get round to doing it, at least not within the 6 weeks anyhow. And sometimes it's never get done at all. So it's just not there. There's also a problem too with some of the books being lost, so sometimes you will find a birth register, a birth record in Roots Ireland, but it's not in Irish genealogy. Or all the way around, it's in Irish genealogy, but not in the Northern Ireland ones, General Registry of Northern Ireland, GRONA, General Registry of Northern Ireland. Why? Well, the top genealogist in Ireland is a man called John Grannon. He did a talk in Derry City one day, in the library in Derry City, and I went down and listened to him, and at the end, you know, they always take questions, and you know how everybody's too shy to ask. Well, not me. John, can you tell me why I don't find the same information in all three of the sets of records at General Registry Office of Northern Ireland, the Irish Registry Office here, Irish Genealogy, and Roots Ireland? And he said, well, it's actually quite simple. What happens is that you go into the local registry office in your nearest little town or village and you register the birth. And then at the end of the month, the people in the local registry office copy it out into an identical book and they send it to the district office, the superintendent's office. And at the end of every 6 months, he copies that out and sends it to Dublin. And in 1921, Dublin and Belfast copied it all out and they swapped them over. So you've actually got 4 sets of records. And along the way, the scribe copying it out, misses a couple of pages, or the page falls out, or the book gets lost in transfer, or whatever. So you'd think the records should be the same, but they're not. Anyway, I searched all 3 of them for John Kelly and couldn't find it. But Catholic records were online, and this was before Find My Past had indexed them, so I had to look for myself. But I knew the church he was likely to be in, and I knew roughly when he was likely to be born, and I got it. And not only have we got his parents here, there she is, Catherine McCurdy, John Kelly, John for John Kelly and Catherine McCurdy. Thankfully not in Latin, because so many of these are in Latin. So instead of John, it would be, what's Latin for John? I know Jacob is James. Eh? Don't know what it is for. I should know because I've seen plenty of them. But the important piece of information is, remember, she didn't know where her folks were from, the Kellys were from. She didn't know where they're from at all. What does that say? Brackaghlislea. Brackaghlislea. So that's where they're from. All of a sudden, I knew where the Kellys were from, Brackaghlislea. And I forgot to point it out to you whenever I was there. But I also knew where the Scullions were from, Brackaghlislea Gallion. Right? Brackaghlislea and Brackaghlislea Gallion, the 2 townlands. So it was all go from that point. It's bigger, I thought I wouldn't be able to read it, I forgot I did it. There's Roots Ireland. Great thing about Roots Ireland as a city, a fantastic database. All you have to do is go into it and say, can you tell me all the children born to John Kelly and Catherine McCurdy in County Derry? Now, there's unlikely to be 2 marriages of that name, but if there is, you'll soon sort them out anyway. But even better than that, whenever you get into it, it tells you you put in the townland. So I could start putting in Brackaghlislea in there, and that definitely identified it. So within a couple of clicks of the mouse, whereas, you know, in the olden days you'd be a microfilm, you'd be going like this in a microfilm. If you were lucky, a microfilm in your family history centre. Do you know what they are? Family history centres. The Mormons used to be heavily into researching family history, and they had offices in their churches all over Ireland. The nearest one to me was in Derry, and every Thursday night I was down there for 2 or 3 hours scrolling through microfilms, looking for the people who were relevant to me. And it would take me 12 hours maybe to find those 11 records. 11, not a second. Wouldn't take me a second to find them. You just have to put the names in, click the mouse, boom, there they all are. That's what I mean by it's all online now. Makes it so much easier. There's Kellys bit now. So we knew they were in Brackaghlislea. So I want to find them in the Griffiths valuation, because when I find the Kellys, the right Kellys in the Griffiths valuation, I will then be able to take Terry when she visits to the exact spot on the ground where her people were born. That's the ones that I was looking for there. John Kelly, father of John Kelly. He's in the Griffiths valuation. And he is in plot 57. Keep 57, keep that in your head. Heinz varieties, 57, because that's important. And what land did he have? Virtually none. This man had 25 acres, this one had 12, this one had 7. He didn't even have half an acre, which would be 2 roofs. He had very little land, nothing more than a garden. But I won't go into it now. Later on, he did acquire more land, and the farm got bigger and bigger. Anyway, that's only 2 Kellys, but remember, we're in plot 57 in Brackaghlislea there. There's some of the other, not many Kellys there are. And that's only starting at 11. There was 3 or 4 more, up to 11, so I think there was 14 or 15 Kelly families. That could have been a nightmare. It was a nightmare, but we had one fantastic stroke of luck, which I'll come to. First of all, Griffiths valuations. There's the maps that come with it. There's Brackaghlislea. There's plot 57. Boom, boom. So now we know exactly where they are. Up close, you can see 57 there, big house in there. Overlay of the aerial photograph shows you that longhouse has disappeared, but there's a modern house there. There is something there, right? So before turning our eyes over, as you can see here written behind me, I put some of this research onto my Facebook page and received this at West Ulster Genealogy on Facebook. Brenda O'Connor wrote underneath that particular picture there. She's there. Where's Brenda? Is that Brenda? No. Hey? Well, then you know what I'm talking about. Did you know Brenda did this? She wrote, I currently live in a house. Drop in anytime. Now, whenever Terry came over and we visited, it was such a fantastic time. I never got as far as there, unfortunately, so I never met her. But Terry met her, and has photographs of her. So I now then knew where to go, and once you've done all the research online, it takes you 6, 8, 10 weeks, you've done all the research, you know all about it, you've constructed a family tree, you have all the information that you're ever going to get off the internet. You have to go down to the place itself, visit the place, and ask people there, do you know anything about these Kellys that used to live here?
Excuse me, that farm that Harry O'Connor lives on, I belonged to the man Johnny Kelly and Kathleen Doyle. And they took Harry O'Connor in there and reared him as a baby. So,
Well, I'm delighted that what I'm telling you dovetails into what so many of you actually, you know these people. So it's working really well. And you can see that I have found out things about a lot of the people that you know and never heard you that did what you know. But it's all public knowledge, it's all up there if you know where to look for it. that Harry O'Connor that you met is, I actually put this on here because this is
The other strange thing is that Mary, who's Harry's wife, is Larry Warren's sister.
Yeah.
He's taking on me punch now. He's taking on me punch now. So what I was saying is you got to go down and ask people. So I went down to where I knew plot 57 was, and it's down a wee lane beside a bungalow, and there was nobody in it, so I went to the bungalow, and the man in the bungalow said, well, we haven't been living here all that long, and I don't really know, but he said, if you go up to the end of this road, there's a man called Harry O'Connor up there, and there's nothing he doesn't know about, well, not just Brackaghlislea, but the whole world. So, and I thought to myself, that's great, I'll just go up there. I drove up there, drove into the backyard, where I'd been told to go. Back door was open, went up to the back door. Hello, no, anybody there, anybody there? And the man was coming striding out in big Wellington boots. And I says, are you Harry O'Connor? And he says, no, he says, I'm not. But he says, Harry's in there, he's in there. Harry, there's a man coming to see you here. So, and I hear the boy shouting, come on up. So, if you know Harry's house, so I went through the kitchen, lovely big kitchen, into the wee living room at the front.
Yeah.
And there was an open fire there. I think it was August too, but there was an open fire there. And this man was sitting to the left and a woman to the right of the fire. And I said, are you Harry O'Connor? And he says, no. I said, somebody told me that Harry O'Connor lived here. Do you know where he is? And he led me on for ages. He said, nah, he says, I'm Harry O'Connor. So you meet characters, and it's a lot of fun. So I explained to Harry what I was after. I was after John Kelly, who lived in plot 57 in 1858. And I know that it had passed his son, who was also John Kelly. Remember, we saw that already, and he lived there until about 1910, I think, or thereabouts. And I said, do you know anything about this? And, you know, you're fishing in the dark, you don't know whether they're going to know anything or not. And Harry looked at me and he says, you see that woman over there? that woman's Marie Moran. And she says, her grandfather was Francis Kelly, and Francis Kelly is the brother of that John Kelly that you're talking about. And as you've just pointed out, Maria was Larry's sister. So remember, that's what I set out to find out. How was Larry related to Terry? Well, Terry's great-grandfather was Larry's grandfather's brother. So her great-grandfather was Larry's great-great-grandfather. Same person. That's where they linked up there in the tree. So it was done. Well, I say it's easy, that I've been in South for 8 weeks by this stage. And we were lucky in all sorts of respects, but especially in going down there and meeting. If I hadn't met Harry, I would never have found that out. I haven't got that on there again. It was just because there's a lovely photograph of it online, an aerial photograph taken from up there, oddly enough, with Steve Gallion in the background. What do you got? Right? Lot of lines on there. Terry. Right, there she is there. That's her mother. That's her grandmother. That's her great-grandfather, John J. Kelly. I was full of stories about John J. Kelly. Like John J. Kelly there, emigrated in 1910 or 1912. So I don't know how he knew these stories, but he says, I was out there in America and I met him. In fact, I was asked to be his best man. Best man. Harry, you're about 60 years younger. I didn't understand all of Harry's stories, to be honest. I'm sure he wasn't making them up, but I just didn't understand them. Great-grandfather John Kelly, and there's Harry, and that's his mother, and that's his grandfather, and that's Francis, and that's John. And remember the photograph where Terry had identified her great-grandfather as Francis? Well, he wasn't Francis, that was Larry's grandfather, and in fact there's John, and John's father was that one over there, another John. Right. So, the reason I'm showing you the tree is because it becomes very complicated. And you have to map it all out like this or some way, or you'll not remember it. It just goes out of your head, you can't keep it on your head. But I have a special computer program, and I can, see if I double tap on one of those in the computer program, all the information I know about that person comes up in the background. Everything I've ever learned about it that I've copied and pasted from other websites, and all the photographs that relate to, and all the documents, they're all behind there. So it's not just a dead diagram, it's a living diagram.
What program do you use?
GenoPro, it's called GenoPro. Genopro. And I always use it because, there's all sorts of advantages. To see if I suddenly decided that link was wrong, I could just knock out that link, go all the way around them and shift them over to somewhere else on the tree. It's so easy, whereas if you have it in most trees, wherever you put them, they're stuck. But I can move them here. Another advantage is, look, they are not in straight lines because they're all put on here on their date of birth. So it tells you that, for example, if you see a John here and a John up there, they're unlikely to be brothers because they're too far apart. You always end up tramping the graveyards. My wife always says to me, if you're going down the graveyard, make sure you take a proper pair of shoes with you. And here we are. There's Larry and Terry at Keenahoe graveyard, as you recognised it, tramping around looking for the graves. And there we have Larry's grandfather, isn't it? That what we said, yeah, Francis Kelly of Brackaghlislea, that's his grandfather, and it is the brother of Terry's great grandfather. That is photograph from across the world.
Who's the year there?
That's Terry, that's the woman I was doing the project for, Terry Kelly, and she's from Philadelphia. They still live in Philadelphia. I think it's Philadelphia, I can't
What
remember.
year did that Francis?
This happened.
Ballinascreen.
Eh?
What year did Francis Kelly there die?
Francis Kelly died 7th of April 1966. Keenahoe graveyard. I've already made this point already. Whenever I'm researching Kellys or any name for any particular townland, on the family tree I put everybody. Everybody's on that family tree, even if I can't link them up. And that's another thing I can't do in other programs easily as well. But they're all on that family tree, and I found several Hugh Kellys. And although I wasn't able to link them in specifically to Terry's family here, that Kelly there, which is her treble great grandfather, I think, is probably a child of this Hugh Kelly. Too far back to have the evidence, but there's a good indication of why she's called the Hugh Kellys, because there's Hugh Kelly in Brackaghlislea. And where does that information come from? Part of my purpose here tonight, apart from regaling you and telling you all these great stories and all the rest of it, and showing you why it's so fascinating, is to show you that we do have quite a few sources. And I said that all of the censuses were destroyed, except for a few snippets here and there. You can just imagine people, after they fire, pulling out a book. Oh, here's a book, look, there's a book, what's in that book? This particular one is the summary for County Derry. It's still there. Not all the individual sheets that were done for the people, but the summary of County Derry. So it doesn't tell you an awful lot, but it does tell you all those Kellys were in, look how Brackaghlislea is spelt. There's another general point about genealogy. In the 19th century, nobody could spell. Most of your ancestors, 90% of the people in this room, your ancestors from the 19th century, they couldn't spell. So they didn't care how their name is spelled. Kelly's easy. There's only one way to spell Kelly, unless you're going to stick an E before the Y at the end. But there's plenty of names, like my grandmother, whose name was McClements. 13 different spellings of McClements. Try searching for that, not easy. So Bracka is actually called Brackaghlislea, L-E-S-L-E, I think it's L-E-S-E-L-Y, something like that. It looks very little like Brackaghlislea, but that is Brackaghlislea. And you can see all the Kellys in it there as well, and there is a Hugh Kelly. There he is. In fact, there's two Hugh Kellys, senior and junior Hugh Kelly. So there's your start of your Hugh Kelly line. But we can't prove it. But, you know, it's a good guess. There's another document from roughly the same period, that was 1831 census. This is the 18, did I write the date on it? Because they are slightly different. 1828, 3 years beforehand. The title plot books, another land survey done, but only covers about 2/3 of the people there. But again, you can see there's Hugh Kelly in 1828. Right, I said that all of this would be much more difficult except for one thing. 90% of the people living in Ireland in the 19th century would describe themselves as either farmers or farm labourers. If you had a plot of land bigger than half an acre, you're a farmer. If it's under half an acre, you're a farm labourer. Some of them describe themselves as weavers. You think, what are the weavers doing in the countryside? Answer, because in the 19th century, weaving in Ireland was not done in factories. Spinning was done in factories. Weaving was done in agricultural labourers' cottages. They were given a loom and told to, if you do nothing else in the winter, the farming's all stopped, you can earn a penny or two weaving. So some of them sometimes called them weavers. But, and remember I told you Griffith's valuation was updated all the way through from 1858 or 9 through to 1929. And this one is, what date is it? 1874. Somebody had gone to John Kelly in Brackaghlislea and written after his name, shoemaker. He wasn't an agriculturalist, he was a shoemaker. Right? Shoemaker. There it is. Shoemaker. See?
Yeah.
Shoemaker. So that's because there was probably two John Kellys and they wanted to differentiate who they're going to send the big bill to and who they're going to send the wee bill to. This one here only had, he still only got that 1 rood and 25 purchase, so he still only got a very small farm at this stage. It's really not more than a gardener, he grows some spuds to keep them going. He's really a shoemaker. So they put him down as a shoemaker. And you'll see it in a minute, but that came up again in the censuses. We were able to tell which John Kelly was which by the fact that he was a shoemaker and not an agricultural labourer. Stroke of luck. Here it is again in, this is Francis. This is Larry's grandfather, Francis, birth certificate, born to Catherine McCurley and John Kelly. And John Kelly, the older man, was also a shoemaker. So he's a shoemaker, and this son Francis became a shoemaker, and the other son John became shoemakers. So that helped us to sort out all of those Kellys, otherwise I might never have done it. It was just a stroke of luck. But whenever you bring Americans over here, they want to see more than just their family history. Obviously, they're not in Ireland that often, they're not that rich. So they want to see some local cultures. So you want to take them to some of the more interesting sites, Jack's Causeway, Ulster American Folk Park, Derry's Walls, wherever. But people from down this part of the world, to me anyway, my limited knowledge of it, the big thing about this part of the world is Sinn Ireland's probably standing for the last 100 years, certainly of the 20th century. And not only that, but I googled this on there, looking to see if he had ever written a poem about shoemakers, and I couldn't find one. But do you know this poem, A Shiver? Any of you know it? I'll read it to you. What's he talking about? He says, the way you had to stand to swing the sledgehammer. Your two knees locked, your lower back shot fast, as shields in the testudo, whatever that is, spine and waist, a pivot for the tight braced, tilting rib cage, the way its iron head of the sledge, planted the sledge unyieldingly as a club-footed lass. Shoe lass. So that's the nearest I could get to shoemaker from Shimashini. But he himself, of course, again I googled this to find out if he had said anything about,
the famous Slave Galleon. He didn't write an awful lot about it, but he did say, on Christmas Eve my father would tell us he's on his way now coming round the Slave Galleon. If you listen hard, maybe you'll hear the sleigh bells. I remember climbing the beech tree at the end of our lane, listening through the frosty air. And there's Slave Galleon, Block 57, Slave Galleon. Santa Claus up there, anyway? You see him? 1901 census, John Kelly, that's the younger one, he's only 20 there, and he's a shoemaker, and there's his brother Francis. These are the two brothers, great-grandfather and grandfather of Terry and Larry. Both shoemakers like their father, both living together. There's Catherine, the mother, father's dead, she's a widow. Catherine McCurley, Kelly, she's still living with them. Move forward to 1911, to the only other census we have. Nicole. Catherine's dead. Obviously, she was buried in 1901. But all the rest are gone too. There's only Francis Kelly's the only one left. And I never found out who this other it's Francis Kelly was 71. He's a labourer and he's single and he's described as a servant. But he probably is an old or something. But all the rest have disappeared. Where did they go? Well, that's where they went there. Ships manifest. The SS Columbia heading from Derry City to New York. And there's John Kelly emigrating, and the date was 1910. 19th of February 1910. Off he went to America. Never came back. He must have known Susan Scullion before he left because he didn't marry her until he got out there. Which oddly enough is the same as my grandparents. And I want to show you something else. No, it's just the second half of the...
Ellis Island was right.
That's it, they right, Ellis Island. There's the Columbia that they sailed on, travelling from Derry to New York in February 1910. That has special resonance for me, that ship, the Columbia. An awful lot of people think that anybody who went to America at any time ever in the past went on a, what do you call those ships that are always sinking, coffin ship. Well, they didn't really. For most of the late 19th century and certainly into the 20th century, they were travelling in liners like that. This was called the Columbia, 1910, John Kelly was out there. 1905, my grandfather, Tommy Gordon, went out there in 1905 on the Columbia. He met and married a woman called Maggie Bellingham in 1908. That's my grandmother, but they came from the same town, and so they knew each other before she went out there, and were married within a month of her arriving.
Where did they come from?
The Slade, the parish of Kilray. And if you go to the quays in Derry now, you will see some benches, and unfortunately the writing is worn off, most of them, but the Columbia is there. A memorial to the Columbia is there, a bench. It's one of the famous ships that carried so many people away from Ireland. This is not famine times, by the way. These people were, including my grandparents, they were going to America because somebody had written to them and said, it's great out here, America, the weather's grand. If you come out, I'll get you somewhere to stay until you get set up. I'll lend you some money until you get started. I'll get you a job. Far better out here. And that's what both my grandparents went out there to do. There are these bronze memorials also on the quays, but the only reason why I took a picture of that is to show you my beautiful granddaughter. Isn't she lovely? That's me, Robin. There's just to show you some more things that aren't overly important, but the death of Frances McCurley, Frances McCurley, 1808, the great-great-grandfather of Terry and the great-grandfather of Larry Moore. I know why I did this one. This is a Groningen one. This is from the Northern Ireland one, because they shared them all up to 1921, obviously, but after 1921, if you want to get them for Northern Ireland, you have to go to Groningen, and it's a horrible website to use. It only does 5 years at a time. You do 150 years in Roots Ireland. It's 5 years at a time. Here's a question for you. And I'm coming to that, that's the worst bit, I'm coming to that bit in a minute. You keep stealing my punchline. If you are looking up 5 years at a time, you start in 1905, what's the second year? 1905 to what?
1909.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody else has done it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 5 years, not 10. That used to catch me out terribly at the start. Still does. And yes, they want to charge you £3 for every one. They're free in Ireland. They want to charge you £3 for every one, and you don't even know if it's yours until you click on it. You have to buy it. You're buying a big enough book. You don't know if it's yours until you actually click on it. Worse still, look what it says up there. Groaning prohibits the customer from printing images, downloading images, taking screenshots of images. What do you think that is there? It's a screenshot. Naughty boy! What sort of a neck have they?
Whenever you're paying for it, but you should, like, there should be some sort of stuff.
Eh?
Whenever you're paying for it, there should be some stipulation that you own that.
Of course it should. You know, why do they do it? They don't do it in their public Ireland. They don't do it anywhere else.
You're off your side.
Nah, it is indeed. I'm sure more important people than me have complained. Hasn't done any good. What? So, I can't remember why I'm going back to her, but there was some good reason for it. Yes, it's the McGovern link, isn't it? No, it's not. I know what it is. That is her birth certificate. Can I read that? Where is it? Sarah, born to Alexander Scullion and... Where's that say? Oh, there it's there. Born to Sarah and Alexander, okay? Alexander Scullion and Sarah Scullion, formerly McGovern. So it's Alexander and Sarah. So watch this. That's just showing you that I could also use that to find out their marriage, but it took me ages to find it because there was a mistake in it. Whenever I was looking for Alexander Scullion and Sarah McGovern, I couldn't find it for Right? About what? Right. Oh, I'm coming to that. I'll come back to you. You'll know again some of the people I'm going to show you in a minute. I just want to say here that sometimes there are mistakes in the records, and this man's name is not Andrew, it's Alexander. Right? Alexander's his name, not Andrew. So that I didn't mention church records before, and I said there's nothing more other than they're hard to access. But what I didn't mention is that only Church of Ireland, as a rule of thumb, only Church of Ireland records burials. The Presbyterian Church doesn't normally record burials, and neither does the Catholic Church, which means that you can be getched up for death records, especially as, again, I said within 6 weeks you're supposed to have reported a birth, marriage, or death to the civil authorities. Most births are there, and most marriages are there, and an awful lot of deaths aren't because we're too sad to go in and report it. So there's a lot missing, a lot of deaths missing, and you're stuck looking for deaths. There's another thing I didn't mention too, which is that you find that when you're looking at the records on Roots Ireland in particular, which gives you both baptismal and birth records, that an awful lot of people were baptized before they were born. Baptized before they were born. How did they manage that?
Well, the Mormons did that there for hundreds of years after they were born. Well, after they were ready.
It's because they didn't get in with the 6 weeks, within the 6 week period. So whenever they got in there, and the registrar said to them, right, when was this guy born? And they're thinking, okay, it's only a month ago.
The other thing I find very interesting is when you're looking at when they're registered, if they're registered late, I get to see who else is registered the same day, and if they're from the same timeline, and if maybe met together, and if there's a connection.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's annoying.
And the children could have been born 6 months apart, but they give them records.
that were within 6 weeks. Another thing too that happened is that some unfortunate people grew up to find that the name they were baptised, Mary, let's say, they go to get married, especially in the Catholic Church where they're in the same church, they go to get married in the same church. You have to, for the records, you have to find your birth in that church. Can you find Mary McGovern, let's say, Mary McGovern on this age, and can you find me back there? And they go back and they look through the records. You say, I think Mary, there's a Margaret, born to your parents, and when's your birthday? That's her birthday. But my name's Mary, not Margaret. So you know what happened was that at the baptism, husband and wife were there together, and they have agreed what the name will be. But then the husband, he goes into the little town bridge to the birth. Well, damn it, I'm not going to call her Mary. She says, Margaret, I want her named after my mother, Margaret. He registered it as Margaret. Some people go to get married and they get the wrong name. It's all sorts of habit. I tell you what, it's especially after a few drinks. He gets brave after a few drinks, but then doesn't tell her when he goes home. So the reason why I'm showing you this was exceptionally unusual. In a Catholic church there are a few burials, and this one says on the 7th of September, Ned Scullion Brackaghlislea Gallion, right, age 71, and what was the year? Did I write it somewhere? 1849. Way back in 1849, somebody died at age 71, and this is the great-grandfather. So all of a sudden, boom, we've got a record going back well into the 18th century, but only because that extremely unusual record is there of a burial in the Catholic Church. Right, here we have that marriage again that should say Alexander, right, not Andrew, and here we have a birth of, where is it? Let me see. Oh, it's a marriage as well, Roman Catholic marriage of, James Breen and Susan Scullion. Susan Scullion of Brackaghlislea Gallion, daughter of John Scullion. So, what I was doing was that while I was researching Kerry's woman from Belfast asked me to research her family history, and they were McGuiggans from, and you would forget this, I've written it down over there, eh? Drummond, is it Drummond? Drummond. Yeah, McGuiggans of Drummond. So I researched her McGuiggans of Drummond, I was doing it roughly the same time as Kerry's, and suddenly discovered that her female line was Scullion, and in fact, she and Kerry shared a great family. So just quite by accident, two separate projects, married up. And you know him? No.
Yeah, he's a vet.
He's a vet.
No.
What's his name?
Somebody down there.
Sean McGovern. Isn't it Sean? To the right. I've written it down just in case I forget. Let us see. Eileen chatted to Sean. Eileen was the Belfast woman I did the research for. And again, we landed up in Drummond at McGuiggans. Not McGovern, but McGuiggans.
That's Sean McCluskey. His mother was His mother was
I'll take your word for it.
He's an engineer.
In fact, he said he has his surgery at his house, and he specialises in
Skin.
something. No, it's not just ordinary dentistry. Again, a very nice man, very well, went to his house and chatted to us. Well, he also said, by the way, was it? If he was McGuigan, it was McGuigan we were researching, and his mother was McGuigan. That was it, yes. And we said to him, is there anyone McGuigan? And his mother's house, which I had identified, was in the same plot of land as his. They lived next door to each other. That's why I ended up coming back here.
Marking for
Eh?
He's got a clamping pod there.
That's right, the clamping pause there as well. And he said to us, everybody around here is strong and very good. If you threw a stone, you're wherever it lands, it's likely to be a big nice. So, full of information again. And there's Terry at the common grave of Susan Scullion in Keena, right? So that is the ancestor of both Terry and Eileen that I did the research for. I'm running out of time, so I really need to move on. I know where I'm back to now. Brackaghlislea Galleon, we're looking for the McGoverns. The McGoverns were from Brackaghlislea Galleon. This was Terry's great-grandmother, was McGovern from Brackaghlislea Galleon, and they lived in plot 24A. So again, I was able to identify exactly where it was, and that's it there, 24A, Brackaghlislea Galleon, but also the Scullions that married into the McGoverns lived in the farm next door. Okay? You know, in those days, who were you going to marry? You didn't go much further than over the shop to find somebody to marry. And so it's very common for them to be so close together. So I knew that both of the houses were there very close together, but this one's abandoned and this one is still lived in. Aye?
Thomas McGovern.
Thomas McGovern. And his son, Plunkett.
That's why I was thinking of
That's,
that.
that was. I went down to do the initial research, drove up to where the house is now, where I knew where it was from the Rivers valuation, landed in, explained to them what I wanted, what I was there for, and they couldn't have been more welcoming. And I said to them, this Terry woman's coming over, and I think it was a couple of months away, and Plunkett said, that's alright, you just let us know whenever she's coming, and I'll show you around. And whenever she arrived, she was very keen to see the Scullion house, because the McGovern house is completely gone. There's a beautiful big house built in where the McGovern house used to be, so you're not going to see anything, but the Scullion house was still there. But he said, you know, have you got bundle boots with you, because this is down a very muddy, steep, difficult lane, but we haven't. So he kitted us all out with lines and boots, every one of us, to go down there, to walk down there. And guess who, when he was walking down with his bad knees, because he's developed bad knees as well as guitar, managed to slip and land on his white chinos, land on his backside of the mud. Didn't think nobody took any photographs, right? That's the wife. This might be them, actually. I think they did. So he took us over to see this, which he owns now as well, incidentally. That's why he was able to take us over to it, because the McGoverns own the Scullion now too. He had all these lovely cattle, and Terry was able to go into the kitchen where her Scullion ancestors, the last of her Scullion ancestors who left in about 1980, mid-80s, something like that. That's where they would have been working, in that kitchen. They were some sort of cousins to her. Eh? I know. Is it a Doric? I remember asking at the time whether it was a Doric or a Rayburn was the other one.
Doric.
That's her looking out the kitchen window. And I think that's the last one there, to end on, is you've got Plunkett and Terry posing in front of the beautiful Drapersrown countryside. Isn't it lovely? Are you beginning to see why I find it all so fascinating?
Hopefully Terry will get a recording of all this.
Who's doing the recording?
Steve?
Steve. Oh, it's up there as well. With lots of recordings. Great. That's all of them now. Any questions? How did I do for time? How long was I supposed to be doing it? Was it 2 hours?
No, an hour and 20 minutes. I have one question for you, and it's a general question. Of all the various databases that are online now, there's Ancestry, there's Roots Ireland, there's Find My Path.
Yeah.
If you were only to buy one of them, which one would you
The
opt
first one I buy would be Roots Ireland,
Roots Ireland.
because it's such a good website for sale. Here's the thing about Roots Ireland as well. I said it cost 120. I can't remember what it cost. And incidentally, remember I said that I didn't work for the money that genealogists would be charging, probably charging £30 an hour like any other professional. I probably worked for one woman said to me one time, boy, you're working for $1 an hour. No, $1 a day. She said, you're working for $1 a day. What was I talking about? Oh, Roots Ireland. You know, the reason I take any money at all really is to pay for my subscriptions to Roots Ireland. That's all it's there to cover those subscriptions. And the thing about Roots Ireland is that, yes, it costs $120 a year, and that I pay that because I'm using it night after night, researching for other people. But if you're using it yourself, do all the other research you can, first of all, and then you can take out a subscription to Roots Ireland for, I think, a week, and it only costs you something £15. So it doesn't really cost you that much if you want to. And you must use Roots Ireland. It really is. Sorry? Would it be 26 for a month? Well, that's not bad at all, 26 for a month. So it's worth doing that way. But on the thrust of your question, you're asking of the big sites, Find My Past and Ancestry.com, which ones do I use? I actually subscribe to both Find My Past, but I use Ancestry.com much more. But that's partly because I do a lot of research in America. You know, you find loads of information that you need on any American project in Ireland. But sometimes, you saw the Philadelphia records, that's what got me going. Well, I got those Philadelphia records because I was able to add a subscription to Ancestry.com. And not only that, but Ancestry
records through Ancestry.
And you get that records through Ancestry.com. They're all there for you, but as well as that, a brilliant website, Ancestry.com, because when you're searching for one person, you get up a record that you know is right, it'll give you 10 suggestions of other records related to that person. And you can go through them. And some of them aren't that person, they're somebody with the same name, but a lot of them are.
Where do you get the shipping information from?
The shipping information is from that particular manifest that I showed you, is the Ellis Island Record website, which again is free, but it only covers 1880 to 1920. Everybody going to America wants records from before that. You know, if your ancestors were out at the time of the famine, you're not going to get them in Ellis Island Records. So you need other shipping manifests, and unfortunately, there's very few online. There's a genealogist from Derry, whose name escapes me at the minute.
Brian Mitchell.
Yeah, Brian Mitchell, who has a book of them.
Yeah. He was here on Saturday.
Was he really? He's a lovely chap and tells fantastic stories. Was he telling you the story about the wee girl, age 3, that he has a photograph of in the Keys in Derry, and she was handed over to strangers to take her in the boat over to New York? It was in the paper. They gave it, we gave it about 3 or 4, she was handed over to strangers.
But Brian's book, is that the only available one? Because I have it.
Yeah, it is, and of course because the book is not indexed, so you have to hook through it all the time. There are various other places where there are some shipping lists, but it's not an area that's particularly well served. My heart sinks if I have to find a shipping manifest record.
The first wee person through the other side was a wee young girl, 14, called Annie Moore.
Annie Moore.
She was on the side, said, $1
First person through.
The other,
I think it was 1880 as far as I know.
1990 something.
Right.
the other one that I happened to fall into last weekend, they were free actually, was Find My Past had old newspapers free last weekend for 4 days. And
That's right,
they do that, and the amount of information I got on my ancestors, to be honest, particularly obituaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the information you get through that is very worthwhile.
That's another good point that's worth making actually, is that for somebody like me, it very often becomes a chase after names. You know, trying to find who's related to whom, what brothers and sisters they have, who their father was, who their grandfather was. And I lose sight of why you're actually doing it in the first place, because the whole point in doing it is to learn something about how your ancestor lived in the past, and that's the best place for information on how people actually lived, so that you can, you know, they have them also on Ancestry.com, and you get lots of court records of the ancestors you're looking for up in court for drunk disorder. What?
Petty sessions.
Petty sessions, that's right.
Very informative.
Any other questions for Boyd here?
Yes.
I think with ancestors
It's just a very good site. Have you any comments about that?
I do have comments. I remember it was
Sorry, what's the name of the site?
Emerald Ancestors.
Oh, right.
I remember it was bonus because before all of this went online, Emerald Ancestors had an awful lot of records online that nobody else had. But it's been largely superseded by especially Roots Ireland. But yes, you can still get records at Emerald Ancestors.
And
Is it free now?
No, it's about under £50 a year before
Right,
that.
right.
And then you can go directly from it to the civil record.
I was on it recently, the actual record, you see the record. I was on it recently and was surprised it was still there at all. But I do remember it was gone, it was a good site. Any
I
others?
presume Ballinascrene's work has been superseded because he transcribed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it has, although, because I'm so familiar with Bill McAfee was my lecturer at the University of Ulster.
You know,
And he took me out to, I don't remember where it was. Anyway, I used to use it for the 1831 census, it was the only source for the 1831 census. And because I'm used to using it, I still use it, although it can be got in other places.
We'll have to give you a copy of Ballinascreen Fees big map book. You don't have it? It's a
I don't think
different
I
map.
do. No, but I don't think I do.
you can never afford it.
I never afforded it. It's definitely a signed copy.
What's the name of the place that he did such a long study of? There's one
But no, he helped us.
Forget the town land.
Way back, I think it was 2016 or thereabouts, we reproduced the maps of the Drapersrown land. And they were a very useful one for you because there's all the farms of the Drapers companies are all the size of them.
Can you give me that book or something on that?
It is, but heavy, but
Because I remember taking, I took photographs of them.
that was in the main.
Because I sent them to Derek.
Okay, anyway, thank you very much. John, one.
Sorry, did Terry have her DNA done?
Sorry?
Did Terry have her DNA done?
DNA.
Terry goes for DNA. I think she's quite keen to do something with that. It's a topic. I can't get my head around it. DNA, I can't understand it. People have tried to explain it to me before.
The DNA is
And
wonderful.
my eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
I can't get it.
I have so my grandmother was born in 1895, okay? Their mother was Murphy from Monaghan, like, you know? Right? And
Yeah.
with DNA, I found my Murphys.
Very good.
Yeah, and actually I found my Murphy ran a Facebook site for Murphys, you know what I mean? But yeah, completely, DNA is brilliant.
I'm currently working with another woman from America who's chasing rankings in Treboyne Parish in Donegal, which is very near me, and she wants me to do stuff on DNA and to go and ask people to get their DNA done, and I said I don't really like doing that.
How to be.
They say people lie, but DNA doesn't.
Yeah.
Eh?
People lie, but DNA doesn't.
Right. It lies to me because I can't understand what to say.
I do think maybe we should do a lecture on DNA for next year's program or something of that
You
nature.
should try and encourage as many people well, the only problem is in a community like this, you do DNA and everybody will be related to everybody.
Everybody, anyway, yeah.
Basically.
They just don't ask me to give the talk on that.
I got my own DNA done, and but I can't convince my wife to do hers. But but I just don't understand it well enough. And what I do like is trying to find out. They come up with all these lists of people who are connected to you, and I'm trying to find out what line are they connected to you through.
Yeah, you can paint it through all sorts of
Yeah,
stuff.
so but I suppose they're doing it, and it's not dear, so but it's another source.
More about money, brought up together and then.
So anyway, to find out you can Boyd be here for a few minutes now with a cup of tea and coffee.
Evidently.
So I'll try and wind up. Just to highlight a couple of things. It's like the notice in the church on a Sunday. Our next talk is on Tuesday the 3rd of December. The Stairway of My Life. It's very local. It's this book here, wrote by a girl called Martina Tierney, who was from Derry Lloyd, Martina McCullough, Sister Philly McCullough, and Paddy McCullough, God rest him, and all the other McCulloughs. So she's coming to talk. It's a very, very good story. If you haven't bought the book, it's one of the best books I've read for a long time. You'll get the book on Amazon. It's not that dear, I think it's £20 or something of that nature. So, but she is coming. She owns a company called Seating Matters, which is a very, very successful firm over in Ballykelly, Limavady direction. And she started life off as a physio, and she never could get a seat that suited disabled people. So with her husband, who since died with cancer unfortunately, she started making seats. And she's now exporting seats all over the world. And is used by a lot of people, including her brothers, as a consultant for efficiency within factories, I think, or something of that nature. So she's our next speaker, very local, very worthwhile. I don't know the lady, I've never met her, but I know her family, so I think it should be a very good talk. Along with that, I'm not saying that Boyd's is a bad talk, by the way. So, finally, I just want to highlight a couple of things that came up to me this morning. There is an online course or a series of talks free of charge on the rippling effects of the Great Irish Famine. And it starts in January. There's a talk in January, February, 2 in February, 3 in February. It's 1 week basically on various aspects of the Irish Famine. And anybody is really interested, there's a leaflet on it there. So that's all. So hopefully you had a very interesting talk. I enjoyed it.
Your magazine. Your magazine.
Oh, Due North. Due North comes out once a year. It's a local series of essays on various local history, and it's on sale here tonight for £4. We've always sold it, so it wasn't out last year, didn't come out last year, but it's back out again this year, so it's on sale. Along with the Ballinascreen Church of Ireland records, so that's the latest.
An excellent foreword by Brian Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, and once again that shows appreciation for Boyd.
You're a very attentive audience. Ask me all sorts of good questions.